Hello?
Oh, hello! In this video I shall be discussing the Sorcerer class of Titan Quest, and after this I'm right away making a double video, sort of, and putting Avengers straight after this as well, so watch out for that. Right, so Sorcerer class consists of Rogue and Storm masteries. So as you can see, it's a hybrid, because it consists of one fighting mastery and one magic mastery. So it's gonna be a bit of a tricky class, but let's go for the skills and see how it goes. Alright, so since Rogue is a fight mastery, I'd say it's probably a better one to start with. Although Storm is really fast to start with in the beginning, it's quite easy to get going. I think Rogue will be more of your slightly more dominant mastery, because you most likely be doing more physical damage than actually spells. Spells will be more of your you'll be casting spells on the side, but the main way of offense will be physical. You got your standard rogue trees, the ones which you pretty much get with every rogue class. You got the envenom tree here, which is a buff. You don't really need to deal the poison aspect of the damage, since you'll be concentrating more on elemental in Storm. And so the skills you want to go for in Venom Tree are Nightshade and Mandrake mostly, because they're the status skills, because they slow down the enemies and also confuse them, as opposed to dealing poison damage. Then you got Calculate Strike also, which is a good left mouse button skill for this class, so every fourth hit will be more powerful. And of course you got Blade Honing, which is a bit of an obvious one to get. It's a permanent buff, so you just switch it on and it's always there. And you got Lethal Strike as well, which is a brilliant skill, good for dealing a lot of damage, like one-off damage to, like, say, like a bosses or any stronger enemies. Weaker enemies it'll send flying. You could, if you want, put 1 point in its synergy as well if you have any spare skill points, because with 1 point it'll stun also the enemy, but it's not really that compulsory. I'd also say it might be a really good idea to pick traps for this class. Since you're a hybrid, you won't exactly be amazing at dealing physical damage or spells, you'll be a bit of both. And so it might be a good idea to have a support, and traps will be providing a lot of covering fire, so they could be a nice supporting pet. If you max the entire tree and get the top skill in the tree, especially, it'll be firing those bolts much faster. So it's a good tree to get with this class. And you get and disarm traps, 1 point can be quite helpful as well. That's not your own traps, so that's the enemy traps, you know, those ones in the dungeons and stuff. And you got some supplementary skills, like the ones you might find useful once in a while. You got a few of them in Storm as well. In here there are throwing knives, you got flash powder, and you got poison gas bomb. And then in Storm there's also Squall and Thunderbolt. So there's quite a lot. You don't really need to get all of them. I'd say pick just 2-3 of the ones you find the most useful, and just stick to them and just forget about the others. Like here I went for poison gas bomb, 1 point in its skill and also 1 in its synergy, which is good for slowing down the enemies. And if we go to Storm, I just quickly mention the other. I picked Squall here because that's good for debuffing the enemies. Now let's mention other important skills in a Storm. Got your Storm Nimbus. So you got 2 enchantments now. You got Envenom Tree in Rogue, and you got Storm Nimbus here. I maxed it here because I would assume that you would be dealing a lot of lightning damage. That'll be the one of the damage you'll be concentrating on with this class. But you may wish to not concentrate on lightning, and you may wish just to deal just pure physical most of the time, and just have Storm to be more of a bit of a support mastery. So if that's the case, then you don't need to max all of the skills in Storm Nimbus. Just only Heart of Frost, that's the only one you will need. But otherwise I just max the entire tree. And you got Storm Surge. It's a good 1 point wonder to get, so it can proc whenever enemies start hitting you loads. It has 15% chance to proc on hit. You can put more points into it if you got more, but 1 is enough really. You can decide to also go for the lightning spell, because that's a nice powerful elemental spell. So it's a good for from time to time if you want like offensive spell power, just cast lightning on your enemies. With the chain lightning it will also spread to the nearby enemies. And I thought Wisp would be nice to get as well, because since you're a hybrid, your Storm related damage, the elemental damage, will not be exactly that powerful, and so Wisp's synergy, Eye of the Storm, would actually, if he casts that on you, you'll be dealing more elemental damage, and also it will give you resistances to cold and lightning, so it's pretty decent. And yeah, that should actually cover the skills you get to. Probably not likely to have much spare skills after all this, but like I said, if you've got any spare skills, you may wish to go for any of these supplementary ones, like Thunderbolt here in Storm, or if you go to Rogue, like we had Flash Powder and Knives. You don't need any of the bleeding skills in Rogue, since you won't be concentrating on bleeding. So yeah, that's as far as skills go. And for attributes, it's a fairly straightforward as well, since we got a hybrid class. With the hybrids, you usually would go for at a ratio of about 2 points in strength per 1 point in intelligence and 1 in dexterity. Like I usually say, the reason 2 points in strength compared to 1 in the others is because physical damage will be your main source of damage, and you need some intelligence as well for your elemental spells, and then dexterity is good for your offensive and defensive ability. And of course, you'll also be dealing piercing damage with rogue skills, and so some dexterity is definitely useful. So yeah, that's Sorcerer class, and Avenger class is coming up right up, so just watch out for that now. Bye then.